Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope all y'all back east are bundled up from all the nasty weather that y'all have had here lately. I say y'all because it's in the 50s here. This is the non-gloating section, however. And all y'all in Florida, you just keep it down over there. So today is an open Q&A where you can ask me questions and hopefully get some answers. If there's anything you're confused about, feel free to throw it in the chat. For those of you who have been here, you know exactly what's going on. If this is your first time here, please notice that I do have subscribers only mode turned on, and you must be a subscriber for a minimum of 1 day before you can participate in the chat. And that seems kind of strict, but I did that to filter out all the bots and the trolls who just like to come in and try to take over a chat in a live stream. I mean, sorry it has to be that way, but that's the world we live in these days, and we have to take steps to help mitigate that issue. So subscribe today. You can participate in the chat next week. And if you have a question, hopefully we can get to it. Before we get into any questions, however, and I do have one good one, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, or even good evening to my friend Steve over at harneilmedia.com. Now, Steve sponsors my website, marklindsaycnc.com, and he has for many, many years. And I appreciate everything he does, both here as my only moderator and behind the scenes, keeping that website up and running. And that brings me to my broader point, and that is if you are even toying with the idea of a website, maybe you have products or services that you want to advertise to the public at large. And maybe you're tired of the listing fees and paying a commission and seeing your competition's products advertised on the same page your products are being advertised. Well, there's no better way to take control over that than to go ahead and create your own website, create your own web store, and offer those products or services. Take control of your business. It also lends your business legitimacy and credibility. If you care enough to create a website and keep that website updated, it shows that you care. And if you're even thinking about maybe sponsorships or some of these affiliate programs, a good percentage of them require you to have a website that has their track record of being updated and kept current. Well, Steve over at Harneil Media is the only person I'm ever going to refer you to for just that type of service. He runs a very tidy ship. He runs a very professional business. And the beautiful part about Steve and his services is it's 100% personal. When you are dealing with Harneil Media, you are dealing with Steve, not some nameless, faceless person in a call center somewhere that you'll never contact again. So do yourself a favor. Head over to harneilmedia.com. You'll find a link to Harneil Media in the description of every live stream and every video on this channel. And it's that way for a reason, because it just works. It just works. Take control of your business. Head over to harneilmedia.com, click that contact us link, and shoot Steve a message. He will take care of you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for everything you do. Again, here in front of the camera and behind the scenes. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So today we have just an open Q&A where you can ask questions. You can make comments, whatever you'd like to do. I do have one comment here, one question here in the queue. Let me zip back up and find it. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? I didn't mark it, of course. It looks like it was way up before the way up before EV Mux started taking care of the chat. So let me go back over here, and I won't be able to put it up on the screen. Let me find it. Come on. Where am I at? He asked a question. Okay, it was Ozguzzi who asked, where is it? Okay. Can we talk about Z-level and 3D raster? Finally found it. Man. Let me bring up Aspire, and I'm using Aspire today just because I have both Aspire and VCarve Pro, but everything I'm going to show you works the same way in VCarve Pro. I'm just using Aspire today for no reason in particular. And what we're talking about is over here in the 3D roughing toolpath and the 3D finishing toolpath. No, we're not doing Z-level in the finishing toolpath. We're just doing it in the roughing toolpath. My mistake. What we're talking about is down here on a roughing strategy. And what the two options we have. We have Z-level, and then we have 3D raster. The simple answer to the question is using Z-level when let me just close this real quick, and I'll throw it's easier to show than try to describe. Let me throw a piece of clip art in here real quick. And I'm going to revert to type and use our old buddy Wally Gator here. That's not his real name. It's just one I've given him. All right, that's good enough. I'm going to material setup and make sure that my model is not thicker than my material. It is not. Everything is good. I'm going to put a slight gap above the model so I don't get flat spots on his back. Click OK, and now we're going to go into a 3D roughing toolpath. Now, I do not have a vector outline here to follow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go by the material boundary just to make this easier for you to see. If I start roughing using a Z-level strategy, what it's going to do is this 1/4 inch end mill that I have is going to start roughing out the model, in this case carving away all of the material, leaving a machining allowance, in this case of 0.03, meaning the closest that bit's going to get to the actual model is 0.03 away from it. It's not going to get any closer to that. That avoids the roughing bit from cutting into an area within the model. That prevents that from happening. The Z-level, basically what's going to happen is the bit's going to come over and start cutting, and it's going to plunge into the pass depth of that bit, whatever it happens to be. In this case, the pass depth is 1/4 inch. So it's going to plunge down 1/4 inch, and it's going to machine everything away from around the model. Then it's going to come down another 1/4 inch, machine even more away from the model. It's going to go level by level. Then it's going to do a profile around the model and around either the vector boundary or, in this case, the material boundary. Last, after it's already machined all this away. Now I can change that. I can make it first, or I can make no profile if none is needed. I'm going to keep it at last just because that was pre-selected. Now it can go level by level, meaning start at the top, work its way down, and just go level by level. Or it can go by depth first. Okay? Level by level, is usually the safer bet unless you've got stout tooling. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and calculate it using Z level, level by level, with a profile last. We'll calculate that. And it'll take it a minute. Come on. Oh, calculate. There we go. And close. There we go. I have that option turned off. It doesn't automatically jump over to the 3D view. I need to go in and change that. Okay, there is the tool path. We'll go into the preview window. And I'm not going to slow it down super slow, but I am going to slow it down a little bit, and we'll preview it so we can see what's actually going on. Let's animate the tool so we can see it. That's coming in at a 45-degree angle because that's what I have set. And if you look at my readouts that appear down here when I put my cursor up on the surface, we've plunged down 1/4 of an inch, and we're machining away all of that material that is going to be gotten rid of and leave the model behind. And as soon as it gets up here into where the model actually is, you'll see how it starts to actually do that. And taking a while. All right. Where you at, Wally? All right, there we go. Now it's starting to machine around the model itself. Okay, I don't know that we need to see all of this animate. Yeah, we do. You need to see that it's going level by level. So, again, this is the Z level strategy. Going level by level with a profile last. All right, let me speed this up to motor our way through it, and I'll undraw the tool. That just makes everything go quicker. And that has exposed the rough area 1/4 inch down from the surface of the model. Could have made the material smaller so this goes even faster. But what fun would that be? All right, now it just did a profile around. I'm using my fingers like you can see. At the end, it did a profile around that rough cut. Now, Kurt over at Crafty Jans is saying, is Z level faster or does it depend on the model? It really depends on the model. It also depends on the model depth, the model thickness. This is roughly, I want to say it was 0.6 something. So I think it was a little bit over 5/8 of an inch deep total. So it might be faster to do it Z level. But again, it depends upon the model. If it's a large model, it might be just as fast to do 3D raster. And I'll show you what 3D raster does in just a minute. I think this is going to be the last. Yeah, this is the last part. And it did its profile. So that is a Z-level roughing strategy. It machined down, if you look at my readout again down here, it machined down 1/2 inch. And it went level by level based on the pass depth of the tool. All right. Now, let me close this, and we're going to do a tool path summary. And we see this was 23 minutes, 46 seconds for this roughing pass. So we'll close it. I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to reset the preview. I'm going to go back into that tool path, and now I'm going to change it to 3D raster. And when I click on 3D raster, it grays out a profile cut. It's not going to do a profile carve. It's not going to go level by level. It's going to do the entire model In this case, I believe it's going to do it in 2 passes because roughing does respect the pass depth of the bit, whereas the finishing toolpath does not respect the pass depth of the bit. And that's an important thing to remember. Again, material boundary, same bit, same machining allowance. The only difference is 3D raster. We'll calculate that. There is our toolpath. We see it again. First pass, 1/4 inch depth. Next pass, 1/4 inch further. Then the rest of the model, whatever that remainder happens to be. So I've got 3 passes here versus the 2 on Z level. So let's go back up to the top view. We'll calculate that. Close. I got to jump back into my hello. Okay, we're in the 3D view now. And we'll preview it. Now again, it's still doing the roughing, and you won't really notice a difference until it gets to the model. It actually starts to follow the contours of the model. Okay? It's not leaving that flat plane. It's actually following the contours of the model, but again, staying that 0.35 away from the model. Or that 0.03 away from the model. And you can get a little bit better idea of the difference here. Now again, instead of making 2 passes, as it was in Z level, it's making all 3 passes to the depth, 0.5997 in this case, leaving that 0.03 minimum. Okay, that's it. That's the end. So we can see what a 3D raster does. It carves the entire model. Let's close this. Let's look at the toolpath summary. We've added 13 minutes to that cut time, from 24 minutes to 37 minutes. So it does take longer. Which does a better job? That's relative. That is basically, it's pretty much 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Now, some folks will use a ball nose for this. That's fine. But remember the step over. Remember the step over of the bits. All right. If I go into the toolpath and I look at the bit, step over here is 0.1, 40% of the bit. Okay. Cancel. Kurt, the Crafty Jens, is saying, so how does the detail pass take for time with each? I'm assuming you mean the finishing toolpath. That's going to be identical no matter which roughing toolpath you use. The finishing toolpath, it won't be any faster or slower. It does not depend on the roughing. The roughing toolpath is there to protect the bit you use for that finishing toolpath. It doesn't rely on the roughing toolpath. In fact, I know a lot of people who runs a finish and don't even use a roughing toolpath. Union Street Workshop, can you run a finishing bit faster because less material is left in the 3D raster roughing? Slightly, yes. You can run the finishing toolpath faster. And this is where the advantage comes in with doing a roughing toolpath, no matter which it is. The advantage is, remember that the bit always, okay, excuse me, stop. The machine only moves at the rate of the slowest axis. So almost always that's the Z axis in a 3D toolpath. Let me go into a 3D finishing toolpath here. I've got, I'm going to get rid of those. I'm just going to look at my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose here. We'll look at this. Now in this case, the feeds and speeds for this bit, I have a feed rate of 100 inches per minute and a plunge rate of 50 inches per minute. That's my standard default. But if I'm doing a roughing toolpath first, because so much less material is there to be cut away, I can bump that plunge rate up equal to my feed rate. Because it's not plunging into 3/4 of an inch of material, it's plunging into a maximum of 1/4 inch of material. Because the roughing is taking everything else away. With the machine always moving at the rate of the slowest axis, okay? With the machine running at the rate of the slowest axis, it's always going to be the Z. Now, let me cancel that here, and then I'll go back in and take a look. With these settings right here, with this 3D finishing toolpath runs, out here, where the Z is not moving, it's going to run at 100 inches per minute. But the minute it gets to the model where the Z starts moving, the whole machine is going to slow down, in this case, to 50 inches per minute, because it will not go faster than the feed rate of the slowest axis. And in this case, it's the Z. When removing the material in the 3D roughing toolpath, especially if you're using the 3D raster, you can bump this up to the same as the feed rate. Okay? Now, we tend to concern ourselves with machine time. If you're in production, machine time is a valid concern. If you're doing this onesies, twosies as a hobby, this is where it comes time for you to establish your priorities. Is your priority to get it off the machine now? Or is your priority to get a good finished product that requires minimal sanding? That's your decision to make. Personally, I don't see any advantage in saving 45 minutes on the machine to spend 2 hours sanding. I don't see that advantage. My time is valuable to me. I would rather let the machine run a little bit slower with a tighter feed rate, or excuse me, a tighter step over on a finishing toolpath, and let it do the work. So I don't have to. Now, unless you're one of those people that love sanding, then, be my guest. It's your trip. Let's see here. I got a couple of things that I missed. I didn't mean to miss them, but I just did. Brooks Martin says, checking the avoid machine area sometimes shorten the runtime. Yes, it does. That's a avoid machined areas. If you have areas that are to be machined, let's look at what that does. Calculate. Because there's no roughing, or this is the roughing. Close. I need to change that real fast. We'll go over to the 3D view and we'll preview, reset preview, and we'll preview it. Let it get going. While the machine is running, I can run other things, do glue ups and so forth. Yes, exactly. And again, that depends on your priority. If your priority is to get it off the machine now, that's legit, fair enough. But if your priority is as little cleanup work as possible, and you want a good quality output, then there are ways of achieving that. And I personally agree with letting the machine do the bulk of the work. Okay, there is that. And we avoided machined areas for roughing. And let's close this. And we're back to 24 minutes. So Brooks was absolutely correct. Avoiding the machine areas, we look at this, we're back to the two tool paths because it's avoiding this final depth. It's going to let the finishing tool path take care of it. So that brought it back down to within the realm to where it's comparable. We're talking a few seconds difference. So that did help. Let's get back over here. There was a couple of others here. Yes, using the 3D raster does make it easier on the bit used in your finishing tool path. And that's another thing to think about when it comes to priority and finish. In that you've got to think about your priorities as well as the as far as expense of machine tools, because you can replace an end mill for a lot cheaper than you can replace a tapered ball nose bit. Tapered ball nose bits are pricey. So where you're talking about a $40 bit versus an $18 bit, I'd rather replace the $18 bit than the $40 bit, especially over something as silly as whether I broke the tip because I pushed it a little bit too hard. Because remember, at the end of the day, a 16th inch tapered ball nose, the tip is still a 16th of an inch diameter. It will break off. That's where roughing comes in. By removing the bulk of the material, you protect that bit. So, let's see here. There were some others. Right. Brooks is absolutely right. In this case, avoiding machined areas did reduce the time, the machine time in the summary, but it doesn't always do that. It depends on the model. Ellen says, sanding is fine. Yeah, okay. I've got a bunch of projects that need sanding. I will ship them to you UPS. Watch for the brown truck. Let's see here. Rich Bratcher says, handwork, machine time, cutter cost, all are variables. Exactly. And you have to set your priorities. What's the most important part for you? Personally, I would just as soon let the machine do the work. That's why I have the machine. I don't want to spend 2 to 3 hours cleaning up because I had to get it off the machine now. To me, that's false economy. My time is valuable to me. Now, I love woodworking. I love shop work and everything, but my family's important too. And given a choice between being out here and attending a family function, family takes precedence every time. So, I have this set up now to where when I calculate a tool path, it doesn't automatically go into the 3D view, and it doesn't automatically open the preview. I did that in a live stream quite a ways back because I did that to demonstrate that you could do that. Somebody had asked about it. So now I'm going to come back here into options and I'm going to turn that back on. As soon as I find it, window layout, see, where is it? Shaded background style, gradient. Toolpath settings. Let's see here. It's in here one. Where is it? I probably passed it. General settings. Yeah, I passed it. Toolpath, as I see, is it in 3D? 3D view settings. Draw material block, no. Use software renderer, no. Anti-aliasing mode. Nope. Remember relative split. Auto open 3D view. There it is in toolpath settings. And come over here and click that. And change that to yes. Now that's back to the default. Click apply. Close. So now, when I calculate a toolpath, it automatically jumps into the 3D view, opens up the preview, and there we are. So, we're good to go there. I just had to remember where it was. Exactly. I do not like sanding, Sam I am, nor do I like green eggs and ham. Sargon says, except when family time includes honeydews. You know, sometimes that's half the fun. It just depends. So, Rich Bratcher says, I really dislike sanding 3D projects. Too many damn valleys and edges. Flat projects are pretty easy to sand. I use something. Do I have one here handy? No, I do not. I got to step away from the mic for just a second. Bear with me, please. There we go. Sorry about that. I use a 180 grit nylon sanding brush. This is off of Amazon. I will try to go find the link to this, and I will put it in a pinned comment as soon as we're finished live here. So it'll be the first comment in line. It's just a nylon sanding brush. It's got abrasive impregnated in each one of the bristles. I chuck it into a corded drill, and I just zip, 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 zip over it. I have one this is, what did I say? I think this one's 180, but I'll look to make sure. I have another one that is 400, but that's more for polishing and burnishing, not burning, burnishing. These are fantastic. Now, there are several different types on the market. You have this type. You have the smaller ones that go in a Dremel. You have some that look like stacked sandpaper, like a flap wheel almost. I prefer the sanding brush to the sanding mop. Again, I chuck it into a corded 3/8 drill and just go for the gusto. It does not remove detail, but keep it moving. Just keep it moving. If you've got itty bitty details, I will get links to those as well. I could go get them, but you've seen them, I'm sure. I also use the 3M radial discs in the Dremel. The secret to that is make sure you turn that Dremel down to slow speed, whether you've got a variable speed or the step down ones. Turn that sucker down. The Dremel ones work well for detail work. They will wear out quickly, though. They will, but turn down the speed on it and have a light touch. Most of the people that shred, because I've done it, believe me, most of the people that shred those little radial discs are either putting too much pressure on it or they have the Dremel turned up too high. Also, remember, these sanding brushes, as well as the 3M radial discs, have their own grit system. I use the white and the yellow. This is 180 grit, but it's its own grit system. It's not comparable to 180 grit sandpaper. The white and the yellow radial discs, I don't remember which is which. One of them is 80 grit, the other is 120 grit. That's not the same as 80 grit sandpaper or 120 grit sandpaper. Again, they have their own grit system. They work the same way. The higher the number, the finer the grit, but there's no comparison between it and sandpaper. So it's there are a lot of options, and believe me, I've done a bunch of 3D carves. This is a lifesaver, and I use it on every carve, whether I think it needs it or not, because 10 minutes of this will eliminate a half an hour with little mini hand sanding wedges, whether you 3D print your own or not, you know. So, but the broader point, it is very difficult to make money 3D carving, mainly because it takes so long. How do you charge for a 14-hour carve? If you have a corporate client who doesn't care about that, then you can charge whatever you want. But if it's, you know, a client from off the street, word of mouth, what have you, how do you charge for that? Some people just don't have the budget or just refuse to pay for something like that. It's very difficult to make money carving 3D. I don't even attempt. To me, 3D carving is reserved for friends and families or myself. But that's just me. Again, you have your own priorities. So let's see here. Marvin Mays says, I want to build a box with a lid that slides over the bottom. How many vectors are needed for the top and bottom? Do you have a video out for that? Thank you. I don't have one out currently, but I will be doing a project with a box like that. I need to make a knitting needle box for Linda, my wife, and it's going to have that situation where the lid, the box kind of recesses into the lid. There'll be a little rim. So that is coming up. I don't have one just yet. How many vectors are needed? Right off the top of my head, as many as it takes, because you'll be cutting out separate parts. Unless you're planning on making this out of one piece of material. If you're carving this entire box out of one piece of material, then you're going to have to do some creative cutting and some creative pocketing. Personally, I'll be making it out of it'll be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, including the bottom 5 pieces for the box. And I haven't decided on the lid yet. I don't know if that's going to be one piece or more. Stay tuned. That's all I can say. Stay tuned. I don't have a video on it yet, but never say never. Let's see here. We're talking about grits and beef bones and things of that nature. Ah, boy. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Doesn't appear we do. Doesn't appear we do. Okay. I had a simple question posed to me by a channel member the other day. Well, it wasn't actually posed to me. It was just kind of a case of, can you do this? Or I wish there was a way to do this. Let me head back over here 2D view. We'll get rid of Wally. He's no longer necessary. Take 5, Wally. See you in the green room later. And I'm going to import a bitmap. And the bitmap I'm going to use is, where's it at? No, I want to go over here. And there's a bitmap. I'll put that there. All right. Shameless self-promotion. The comment was made, I wish there was a way to crop the bitmap. There is a way to crop the bitmap right here in vCarve. You bring in your bitmap, whether you're going to be doing, sketch carving or what have you. In this case, I have the square bounding box because this is a square bitmap. If I go into the folder, bunk, and look, there it is. It's got the white background. That is square. As it should be. But I want to crop this. I want to crop it. I want a circle. So we'll go in here, and I'm going to go to the center. I'm going to draw that circle from the center. I'm going to bring it out to about right there. Yeah, 9.8. Let's make that 9.7 and see what that looks like. Apply. Yeah, there we go. We're right along the edge of that logo. Ain't that cool? There we are. All right. So now I want to crop that bitmap. What I need to do is select the bitmap, hold down Shift, select the vector, and now come right over here under Edit Objects, third row, last icon, Crop Bitmap. I've got the vector selected. Boom. I cropped. And now we can see I have the vector. There's the bitmap. It has been cropped to that vector. I now have a round bitmap. But if I select the bitmap, I still have this square area out here. That is not the bitmap. That is the bounding box for the bitmap. Any moves or distortions that I make in this, if I distort the bitmap now using the bounding box, I can't distort the bitmap. I can just distort the vector. Close that. But basically that bounding box is there for any resizing. Control Z, or rotating, or anything of that nature. It's based on the bounding box. But that bounding box is no longer part of the bitmap. Now, let's go over here, and I'll delete that toolpath, delete this. How does this affect sketch carving? Well, let's look at sketch carving toolpath. We're going to be carving a bitmap. Because I have cropped the bitmap, this line is now out here around this edge. It's not that rectangle. I'm not going to have that square border around the bitmap when I go to sketch carve. Let me bring this down. Okay, and I lost my outside. I'm going to have to do that. I don't like it, but I'm going to have to do it that way, I think. I don't like having that stray goodie there. A lot of questions about sketch carving toolpath here. They're asking, why can't we get in and edit these vectors? Well, the simple answer is because these aren't vectors. You're not creating any vectors. You're creating a toolpath. There are no vectors here to edit. None. It's doing its best to follow the shape. Could use a little bit of refinement, yes. But remember, if you look at the jagged edges here, we're following a bitmap. We're not following smooth vectors. You're not creating vectors. You are creating a toolpath. Well, let me bring that down to 5 and see what we get. Now 1 ain't going to do it. Well, 1 might do it. 1 might do better than I thought. I still have this little spot out here that I don't want. There are ways around that. Let's jump it up to 2. See what we get. That's a little better. I don't like this. I don't like that. But that is the shading within the bitmap. Could you crop this with 2 vectors, like to pull a border from the bitmap, leaving the center to be deleted? Yes. Well, let's check. Let's check that. Okay, let me calculate here. And we've got a lot of fuzz. This is a mess. My logo, turns out, is not a good candidate for sketch carving. So I'm going to change that to black so you can see it. And we'll preview it. Zippity doop. And yeah, leaves a lot to be desired. My logo is not a good candidate for sketch carving. And that's okay. Reset preview. Close. Now, let's go over here, back to the 2D view, and let's see if we can do that. If we can crop the photo with 2 vectors. So, because I'm not sure. Let's see here. Whoop, didn't mean to do that. Should I Control Z to uncrop it? Let's see, would that uncrop? No, it won't. Undo crop bitmap. Okay, so I've undone the crop. All right, so I've got my border back. I have a vector here. Now let's see if I can trace the bitmap. Got it selected. And I'm going to select the red, the black, and that should be good enough. Preview looks good. I'm going to have a duplicate vector here. See, close this. I'm going to get rid of this round vector that I used. There we go. Now let's trace the bitmap. Select it. And I'm going to just click on this color. And I'm going to click on this color so I know they're both selected. Preview it. I don't have a duplicate vector around it. Looks good. Okay. Then we'll apply. All right. And we'll close that. So now I'm going to select all of my vectors and the bitmap. And let's see, can we crop the photo? Well, it says it cropped the photo, and now I can see my X and Y 0 lines through where I couldn't before. Control Z, now the bitmap background is back. Control Y, now it's gone. That's a little tip for some of you that didn't know that. Control Z is undo, Control Y is redo. So, you can do that. You can crop and make it transparent, more or less. Remove any and all background. Now, there is a problem, and this is where y'all come in. This is where y'all come in. I'm going to ask Michael because I think I'm correct in saying this. I've looked and I have not found a way yet. There is no way that I know of to export this bitmap now. I've edited it. I've done a few things. There is no way to export this bitmap with these edits. If I go up here to, File, Export, I can export in these formats, but even this SVG, if I try export SVG, let's go to my desktop, just call it new SVG. No vector selected, no suitable vectors selected. At least one vector must be selected for this operate. It's going to export the vectors. It's not going to export the bitmap. It's not a model. There's no way. Let me just right click on it here. Duplicate, delete, select, bitmaps. Oh, I just select it. There is no way to export that bitmap. Feature request. Allow us to export the bitmap as a PNG file or an SVG file. I mean, if they can make it crop, they can make it export. Just maybe it's just me that needs that. So, okay, Kyle put out a video, I guess. Kyle's approach is to set the material to solid white and color the carve black, and then in the preview window save it as a JPEG. That's for saving vectors from the sketch carve toolpath. Yes, the thing to remember on that sketch carve, the thing to remember on that sketch carve toolpath is it's not creating vectors, it's creating a toolpath. That also dovetails in with the molding toolpath. You'll notice there's no way to protect if you've run a molding toolpath. And you go into a profile. There is no way to project a toolpath onto a 3D model because the molding toolpath does not create a 3D model. It creates a toolpath. Mike Bernasconi, the Mad Professor, says, I've spoken with Adam and Becky about this, and I think it may happen in 13. The ability to export the bitmap, I hope so. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. The more of us who send in a request for it, and that's the subject, feature request, asking for the ability to export this bitmap. It's a big help. Those of you who have lasers, for instance, this could be a major help for you. I used to use VCarve for everything. Now I use a combination of VCarve and Aspire for just about everything. I draw out something in VCarve or Aspire because I know the tools, I know how it works, and then export it into something else. This entire, my entire logo was designed in VCarve Pro 8.0. And then I exported it as an SVG, the vectors. I exported the vectors as an SVG file, imported that into Inkscape, and filled in the colors there. So my logo was designed in VCarve Pro. You can still save it as a screenshot, yes, but you're still not removing anything. You're still going to apply a white background. If the goal is to remove the center, well, the center is now deleted. Not really, though. Not really BMP, though. My screenshot save as PNG. Yes, but it won't save as a transparent PNG. If that's your goal, you're better off doing this in imaging software. It would just be convenient if you could do it all once here. I use Corel Paint Shop Pro as my imaging software. And I can create a transparent bitmap. I have one. I use, there it is right there. Open that up, and you can see that's transparent. There's no white background. It's the red circle, the shades and stash, and then my Mark Lindsay CNC.com down below it. This is a black background, but you can see it's transparent. So anyway, the ability to do this, if you've got a laser, I mean, being able to do all this stuff in VCarve or Aspire, since you already know all the controls, then export it as a SVG, load it into your laser or 3D printer program, you've got it covered. So there, I mean, we all do what we can with what we got. It's okay, here I go. Rich says, I was trying to crop a pic so I could run it through Easy Create to make a model, then add to another 3D model. Yeah. And now, again, remember, Aspire and VCarve, they are not imaging software. You're really limited as to what you can do as far as bitmap manipulation, So it's a matter of, does this require further software like Photoshop or GIMP or Paint Shop Pro? It might. It depends on what you're doing. Not every photo is going to be a good candidate for V-carving or 3D model creation. But that's why things like Easy Create and VistaSculpt and a few other AI assistant tools, that's why they exist. So you can load those difficult photos and use AI to help you get the model you're looking for or get the closed vectors that you're looking for if you're going to V-carve. So that's why those things exist. I haven't found any one-stop solution. There is not one magic piece of software that does everything. So it depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on the project, and it depends upon all the variables within that project. Again, not every photo, not every image is going to be the right image. They're not all going to be perfect candidates. And if you're doing this for a client, sometimes you have to know when to say no. If they come with a rotten picture from the 30s, there might not be anything you can do to help them, without relying on AI tools. And again, a lot of people have a lot of heartburn with AI, and I fully understand. In a lot of ways, I do too. But if you use a tool that's dedicated to something like this, I just see it as another tool. So, okay, let's see here. Many of the image softwares have a nice handy feature, or maybe it's just Adobe products. Send to Photoshop, Illustrator, except that would be handy here. You can export an AI file, but again, not a bitmap. You can send vectors. You can export vectors as an AI file for Adobe Illustrator. And Photoshop, I believe, opens AI files too. I could be wrong. It's been so long since I've used either one. And then I never really got proficient with Photoshop. Learning curve with Photoshop was like that. I learned how to do like 3 things, and that's all. Because that's all I needed. Anything else? Nope. Not for me. But you know what? This is the kind of thing that we face on a daily basis. You have to be proficient in any number of things. I saw a comment the other day, I believe it was on Garrett's Wednesday live stream, where somebody said they were fairly new to CNC. And they said they were surprised at how much woodworking knowledge they needed to be able to do this. that they thought the machine did it all. And it's like, no. The machine can cut you the parts for a frame. The machine can cut an entire frame. But the machine's not going to sand it. It's not going to finish it. It's not going to stain it. It's not going to do any of that. It's not going to orient the material correctly. It's not going to make it the correct thickness automatically. You have to do that. You have to have some woodworking knowledge. This is a tool for woodworking. It doesn't replace woodworking knowledge. It's got to be incorporated into the process. I've seen other comments about how people were surprised at how much computer knowledge you needed to be able to use this machine with woodworking, because they come at this from the woodworking standpoint. And that's where I came into this from. I'm not a machinist, never have been. You know, I tell people 11 years ago I couldn't even spell CNC. Now I've built 4 of them. So, yeah, that is a common misconception with the use of a CNC. Same applies with most any tool. Exactly. Being able to open the box of your new table saw doesn't mean you know how to use it. Being able to put this together doesn't mean you know how to use it. My wife and I were just having this discussion not a little more than an hour and a half ago. Said I can build her guitar, but I can't play it. But just because I can't use the product doesn't mean I don't know how it should be built. Just means I'm not the end user. So it has to be built for the end user. Well, you know, it is what it is. We deal with that all the time. But if you're going to get into this, you have to be willing to accept that there are going to be expenses. It's true. This machine, this entire shop, will nickel and dime you to death if you let it. Because there's always going to be something that you're going to need to. You either broke it, it wore out and you need to replace it, or you used it up, i.e. CA glue or accelerator or painter's tape or lacquer or wood glue. You're always going to be buying supplies. So if $20 for a bit is a deal breaker, you might want to consider a different hobby or business. If $60, $70, $80 for a table saw blade is a deal breaker, you might want to consider another hobby or business. Because believe me, an $80 blade is not expensive. Not when the next alternative up is $350. I've seen that. Yep, there we go. Butch Miller. That's me in cribbage boards. I make them, but I don't play the game. I don't know the rules. I have seen cribbage played. That's it. I don't play cribbage. But I can make a cribbage board. So, well, anyway, I'm preaching to the choir when it comes to that. 71 folks watching. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday. We'll go ahead and wrap this up, make it a short one this week, and maybe I'll get some grilling time in this afternoon. Who knows? We'll see. I'm thinking pork chops on the Weber. We'll see what happens. Anyhows, channel members. Tomorrow, members only live stream, 5 Pacific. That'll be 8 Eastern. What was that? 7 Central. It's going to be kind of a mix of topics. And also, channel members, we're going to do a special Thursday live stream this week. I didn't want to take away from the Monday live streams. We're going to add a Thursday live stream, same time, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And this Thursday, we're going to get into some Tinkercad for 3D printing. I don't want to take away from Vectric on Mondays, so this is going to be in addition to. Again, that'll be this coming Thursday at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, Tinkercad for 3D printing. Check my posts tab on my YouTube channel for the link to all of those. I haven't created the Thursday one yet, so there won't be a link there. I'll create it Tuesday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you'd like information on how to become a channel member, right below this video panel, you'll see the word join. I think it's over by the subscribe button. Click that join button. Another video is going to open up and tell you all about channel memberships. We got a great group of people, fantastic bunch of people who are all dedicated to seeing each other succeed. And we get into various topics, everything from CNC to woodworking, plain old woodworking. We've got a couple of hand carvers in here. Mike Bernasconi is making some killer dough bowls, hand carving. And there's laser, and there's 3D printing. We talk about everything. Barbecue. We talk about everything. We'd love to have you join us. Everything else, next week, I'm not sure what's going to happen. There will be a live stream. And, yeah, thanks for spending part of your Sunday with me. And go out and do something cool. No, most of you guys are in 6 to 8 inches of snow, maybe more. Stay in the house and do something warm. There you go. Hot chocolate's great on a Sunday afternoon. No matter what, y'all take care. Check up on your friends. Check up on your buddies. Make sure everybody's doing all right. Okay? We're all in this together. Let's make sure we all pull through. Have a great Sunday, y'all.